Oops, I can hear you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think I've said what I need to say. We're doing a psychic fair next week if you're in Denver, and I'm doing a manifestation class on November 17th in person. That'll all be in the meetup site. Gail, I'm going to
Yeah,
introduce you, and then I'm going to let you take it away. And
okay.
then I'm going to have a moment of grief because I'm okay. Gail Fowler,
Hold on. I messed up with the.
GEAF Gifts LLC, and works with bear medicine and other indigenous medicines to help people heal their emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies and helps them heal their physical bodies. She is an urban shaman, certified master teacher in Reiki and the Featherway, an empath, medical intuitive, and channel. Gail has a Bachelor of Business Administration degree from University of Hawaii and a Master of Business Administration from Regis, and she and I do the Ho'oponopono once a month. And about a month ago, I got one of the most incredible healings from Gail that I've ever had. So I cannot recommend her strongly enough. So Gail, you honor us with your presence. Take it away.
Well, thank you very much. Um, so I'll give you a little background on myself. I was born this way. Um, whether my family wants to admit it or not, I could sense um, energies, vortexes, spirits. I could sense people's emotions. And what's interesting is as I moved up in my corporate America experiences, which I've worked there for many years, um, a lot of what my natural gifts are actually worked very well together. So what happened was I basically said, no, there's a line, distinct line between here's my my corporate America working my muggle job. Here is my metaphysical side. And I said they don't. There's no such thing as it blends together. But as I got older, I'm like, oh, actually it does. So that's really a shift that's come across for me because I had always wanted to become successful. And I always planned on what my job would be. And I mean, I'm not kidding. At the age of 12, I already decided what I was going to be, what I needed to do to get there, and so on and so forth. Now, with that, it also put in a lot of burdens. What if I fail? What if I make a mistake? And that's kind of hard for a 12-year-old to have to deal with. But going back to the childhood trauma for me was that my father was an alcoholic. I didn't know he was an alcoholic because everybody drank back in the day. You know, what's the big deal? Everybody drinks. He had his good days, he had his bad days. And just recently, and I'm not kidding, I'd say within the last year, maybe 2 years, I found out my dad was a narcissist. And I'm like, oh, I knew he was full of himself. I didn't know there was a term. And the way I found out, believe it or not, as I put in my little presentation description, it was through YouTube. The whole thing, I just like flicking around, going, and it just shows about narcissists, how narcissists impacts our lives. I'm going, oh, I don't need that, and I'm just keep going. But it kept coming back and coming back, and then I realized one of the ways my guides work with me, or they do work with me, is to show something where I have to pay attention to. So it's like, fine, I get it. Let me just watch it. Let's see. It's not very long. And after I watched it, I stopped and I said, OMG, I guess there was a reason. And he was a narcissist. And there's actually 7 different types of narcissists. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, now what? So I can say that I actually healed myself from my dad and all that trauma. Do you know how I dealt with it? I grew up in Hawaii and I moved to Colorado. Yay, me. It's all done. Or is it? Did I run away? Absolutely not. It was for my husband and my kids. It was for us. But I really didn't resolve the issue. Because you know how a lot of therapists will tell you, you have to resolve this. You have to work through that. A person that I met when I first moved to Colorado, she told me I needed to write a letter to my father asking him to forgive me. What? Asking him to forgive me? What did I do? So I was like, okay, I'm not talking to her anymore because she didn't get it. So part of what we're talking about today is helping to identify, not to relive, not to resurface the trauma, but how are we going to move forward from that? So my disclaimer is I am not a doctor and I don't play one on TV. I'm not a licensed therapist, although I'm a spiritual counselor and I'm an ordained minister. So that covers me a lot of things. But bottom line is, I am someone who lived through the trauma. And believe it or not, it's still part of me, even though majority of it started very, very young. I don't think I was even in school yet, at least what I can remember. And I didn't realize that those experiences affected me. My parents got divorced when I was about 8 or 9. And actually, I thought life was good. Dad's not going to be around to constantly tell me I was doing wrong or I wasn't good enough. So I thought it was better and that things would be better. But then we had another trauma. My poor mom lived her life for my dad. She had been married 16 years with him, and she did everything for him, including raising the 3 of my sisters and I. And then she had to go back to work. And she had young kids. My youngest sister was maybe 4 at the time. So there was a lot of things that we had to adjust to in our lives. And Dad, whatever reason, I know why, but he didn't pay child support. So you've got a single mom with 3 kids. She got the house, but she had to make ends meet. And so we lived in what's called survivor mode or survival mode. I was like, oh, again, another YouTube video. I'm like, what is this? Is it really that big of a deal? I'm fine. I'm really fine. I resolved it. I'm good. So I went through decades feeling that way. We moved in 92 into Colorado, got my second son. We created our life for ourselves. Things was good. Career-wise, I was doing great, moving up the ladder. Everything was perfect, or so I thought. So how does this tie to you all? How does this make sense to you? Because there are different types of trauma. You got the emotional trauma, physical trauma, mental trauma. And it can happen anytime in your life. It could have even happened 2 years ago or even 6 months ago. But that can also trigger what we call the PTSD. And you may not even know it. You're going on, everything's good, and all of a sudden something happens and you respond in a very odd way. That's not you. So I had this situation, and I was so angry that it even happened. Had a new boss, and he was all, I'm the boss, I'm the director. And he was gone for like 4 hours. We had a report to turn in to our client, and it was due. And I do the reports, and I normally just send it in after the vice president will look at it. Well, here's the new boss. I better make sure he looks at it. Called him, emailed him, let him know it needs to go out. Didn't hear from him. Finally, I made the decision. We don't want to be out of compliance. So I sent it. He comes in 2 hours after I sent it and starts yelling at me. Comes into my office in my face, like he's right here. He's a big dude, probably over 300 pounds, probably 6 foot something. I'm barely 5 feet. And he's in my face. And I got angry, but I cried. And I got mad at myself for crying. I wasn't crying because he made me cry, but I was just so angry that the tears came out. Then I got pissed off, like, no, you didn't make me cry. I'm done. You know what? I am so done. I don't deserve to be treated this way. And nobody will come into my office in my face and yell at me for something that I did right for the company. Then I realized, probably after I got home being so angry, oh dang it. I got triggered because dad used to do that all the time. And I didn't realize that I would get triggered because, to be honest, nobody else did that to me before. I'm like, where the heck did that come from? Oh, that came from a surprise. Other things that I've known, and this is something you guys may find that you do. So when you have a reaction, it's the fight or flight, right? One or the other. But you also have the ability to say, if something triggers you, or even just normal, just the little thing, how do you respond? Do you respond by stepping back and kind of going inside? I don't want to deal with this. Or are you the type like, oh no, I am not going to let you do this to me, and go in their face? That is a fight or flight reaction. But keep in mind, our ego, the ego, not an EGALE, that's another story, gets in the way. The ego is there to protect us, to teach us, to make sure we're okay. So it could be the ego saying, step back. This is not comfortable. You need to go away. Step away. Or, oh no, rise up to the occasion and challenge them. We all are unique individuals, so we do respond differently. So where does that lead us? Like, okay, just, show of hands. How many of you had trauma at a very early age? Just a little, yeah. How many of you think that you've moved past it? Yeah, a lot of people are doing the work. They say, I'm doing my work. I'm doing the self-healing. And you may be a totally different person now. But one little incident may occur, and then you go back to your old ways. Guess what? That's normal. And if you didn't know by now, you're all human. So it's okay for us to go back to our old ways, because that is a way for us to feel, it's like a knee-jerk reaction. Just do things we used to do. You can say, I've worked so hard to be more positive and to maybe listen to people instead of just talking over them. Or I've learned to speak up more because what I say does matter. All these little things that you've worked on for so long, it's still there. But every so often, we get triggered. And that's where the trauma comes into play. So now I want you to use your reaction button. And I want you to, say like thumbs up, thumb down. How many of you have had physical trauma? Thumbs up. Okay. You can unclick that. How many of you had mental trauma? Thumbs up. Or they're just kind of like getting in you. They just know how to manipulate you. Okay, take that down. How many of you had emotional trauma? Yep. So, and sometimes we may have had it all, and it may be from the same person. It may be from more than one person. It may be from different times in our lives. So part of our self-healing, and I know a lot of us says, I got to do that. I got to make myself better. Why do we do that? Why do we say we have to make ourselves better? Because we think we're not good enough. So how many of you have, and click the reaction, a self-esteem issue? Oh, sexual trauma is physical trauma, if that helps. Okay. I just didn't want to go into the details of that part of it. But so we had others impose their will upon us without our permission. And all our life, we have been trying to get out of that situation. How does that affect our relationships? Why do we end up with the wrong person? Why do we keep ending up with the people who needs help, who needs us to help them? How many of you tend to find people and you're like, I can fix them and then it'll be all better? Thumbs up, thumbs down. That's part of us thinking we are in servitude of others. Servitude, in service of, that's fine if we don't neglect ourselves. And I'm good at telling everybody this stuff. I am not good at taking care of myself. I'll admit it. I get people who even remind me, Gayle, and I'm like, oh, sorry. I don't ask for help. Do you ask for help? Thumbs up, thumbs down. I have trouble. Other people have no problems because they've gotten to a point in their healing that they're better. Or they were told it's okay to do that. Growing up, it was not okay. You offer help. You are the one who go out of your way, even to your own detriment, to help others. And that's one of my, maybe the negative sides of me, because I forget about me. Or is it? Me being able to help others view it as a positive thing. So before we go into a little more details about traumas, if you've got a piece of paper or even in your mind, I want you to make a list. Here's the good things that you like about yourself, and here's the bad things that you feel you have to fix. Okay? It doesn't have to be a big laundry list, but give yourself, at least a few in each one. And I want to really explain that you are in a safe environment. This is a sacred place. We are all heart-centered, and we're all feeling the reason you joined is because we have some sort of trauma that affected us. And so feel safe. And you don't have to share your list, but this is for you to start to acknowledge uniqueness about yourself. We call it the pros and cons, the strengths, the weaknesses, the good and the bad. And when you think you've got a pretty good list, do a thumbs up in the reaction. And by the way, we've got a lot of people on here. Thank you for joining. And I'll give you like a couple more minutes and then we'll talk about it. Now, I'm going to tell you that a lot of this things that I'm talking about, it is majority, I would say, is me, but my guides are also with me. And they tell me, ask them to do this. I'm like, okay. So I've learned not to question, like I used to question everything because I was afraid of making a mistake. Does that sound familiar? I was like, okay, well, there must be a good reason. And so this exercise that we're doing actually came about like right before a class that I had done. And it was amazing because it really wasn't me talking. It was the guides talking and going, I would have never thought of that, which seems kind of funny because it came out of my mouth.
Okay, for the 5 people that have their hands up, are they up because she had asked the question? Or if you're up for that, you can take them down. But if you have a question for her, then I will unmute you. So Penny, oh, your hands went down. Okay, just checking. Just wanted to make sure.
Sorry, that was not a good direction.
No, that was okay.
We got about a minute. And I do ask if you do have a question, it's okay. You can be on camera or you don't have to be. It's all good.
And we are recording this. So if any of you would like the recording, you just have to either private message me with your email or you can put it in chat and I will save the chat afterward and work on that.
Okay. Now I want you to look at your list. Which side, the good or the bad, has a longer list? How many of you have more good stuff? Raise your thumbs up. Mm-hmm. How many of you have more bad stuff? Okay. And that, again, is also normal. So now we're going to go and look at our bad list. How many of those are because somebody told you that that was wrong with you? If it is, put a little star next to it. How many of those are because you are not as confident in yourself and you think, well, maybe I need to get better? So you put that on the list. Put another star on there. Now, is this list starting to get shorter and shorter? How many of those are beyond your control? Like, I can possibly change that now, but I want to. Put a star next to that. Okay. So now we're going to look at the starred ones. Look at what you said as your list there. Can it actually be a positive attribute in a different circumstance? Whether it's in your, in a relationship, whether it is at work, whether it is, any interactions with someone else. Can it become a positive attribute? So changing that negative into a positive, into a strength. Because like I talk a lot. Okay, I talk a lot, but do I talk a lot just to talk? Nah, I don't know. Depends. If I get drunk, don't even go there. I'm talking when I'm sober and I'm clear-minded. I don't talk just to talk. There is discussions behind it. And when people are reluctant or kind of hesitant to speak, I ask them, or I'll kind of lead it into where they can talk. So that's actually not a bad thing. So that can actually be moved on the good side, right? So anything that you have on your bad side really can be a positive in a different situation. So it should not be considered bad. It's something that is unique about you. And that maybe in situations, it'll actually be beneficial. Wow, that's really neat. Who the heck thought about that? I didn't, but the guides had showed me. And I'm going, wow, I'm so glad I actually listen now and do something about it rather than going, no, I don't know. It's just distractions. So your self-worth is a big concern. Some people may say, no, I'm fine. I am so good. I don't have any issues. Yeah, I used to say that too. I have a different persona in front of people than I have with my husband, my kids, very close friends. There's a different side of me. There's many people who knew me and they'll say, oh, you have a perfect life. Everything's good. You know exactly what you're doing. And I'm like, you obviously don't really know me. But we were taught at a very young age how we're supposed to act in public. At least that's how my mom used to say that, or my grandparents used to say that. So there's that public person that we're very good at, and it seems like everything's great. But when we're alone or, in a smaller group, our vulnerability starts to show. Vulnerability. How many of you think that is bad to show your vulnerability? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yep. Vulnerability. It's showing weakness. I can't show weakness because I might be taken advantage of. But vulnerability is not always negative. Vulnerability could be called your soft side, showing that you are not perfect. Oh my gosh. I don't want to show anybody I'm not perfect. No way. Well, what's wrong? What's wrong with showing you're imperfect? In the beginning of my, I guess my young adult life, oh no, I have to be perfect. Because dad was still there. He had to see our grades. He had to see all the things, our achievements and all of that stuff. So he's still involved. And then we still had to deal with him. So I had to be perfect as best that I could. So I'll share your story. In the 7th grade, I had 5 A's and 1 B. So I got to show dad my report card because my mom said so. So he sees it. And he says, so next time you're going to get all A's. Not realizing that B was very hard to earn. That teacher did not give out A's. But what happened? I'm not good enough. I'm still not good enough. After all the work that I did, and I was very proud, I'm not good enough. And so that kept going on and on. Everything that I did somehow was just not good enough for him. And I remember having a conversation with my mom. And I said, because I was crying, I was very upset because I really worked hard for that grades. And she said, you know what? I barely had C's. So she goes, the only person you need to please is yourself. That should have been a positive thing, right? Well, that made it worse for me because then I started putting the benchmarks way too high to please me, and I could never do it the way the average wasn't good enough for me. So it was a positive thing. My mom was really supporting me. My dad he had good enough grades because in high school, he was a captain of the football, basketball, and baseball. So they had to have certain grades, right? But the academics was not his strength. All three girls, all of us, I would say we were pretty smart. Poor guy, he ended up with having three girls who were not very coordinated. So none of us excelled in sports. None of us really liked it. So when he left us for a woman who had four boys. And he had said, while he's telling us why he's leaving, the one thing he did say was, well, she's got four boys. He always wanted a boy. Well, you got three girls. The first was a girl, so I was supposed to be the boy. And talking about going back to the root cause of my self-esteem, a dear friend of mine, Heather Nichols, I keep forgetting what the heck she calls it, but I call it like timeline healing. So she wanted to help me with self-assurance or feeling more confident. So she would figure out, like, what point in time did this occur? Did this first occur? So, kind of did like a little meditation, and I figured out, oh, I think I know when that occurred. And she goes, okay, so now from that age, look forward. Do you still have issues with self-confidence, self-assurance? I said, yeah, I'm still there. She goes, okay, go back further. So what happened is, it turned out in this one vision, I was 3 months old in the womb. In my logical brain, because I'm still a skeptic, even though I do this, what the heck, at 3 months old? I don't even know I really had a cognizant brain at the moment. What was interesting is she said this was her second grandchild, and they found out that at that point, the little baby decides male or female. So I decided that I wanted to be a female. And I looked at my friend and I said, you know what? I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud to be a woman, proud to be a wife, proud to be a mother. I wouldn't change it for the world. And then I realized, it's his problem. It's Dad's problem, not mine. But that's when I first found out that I thought I wasn't good enough at 3 months in the womb. OMG. But it helps. It helped me to understand. Could that fix all the stuff that Dad had done? No. Could it erase it? No. But it helped me to realize that what I was feeling where I wasn't good enough, the trauma of that, really didn't start with me. Someone else made me feel that way. And that trauma is still there today. That's stuff I'm still working on. So now, how many of you have more good than bad? Thumbs up. It's okay you've got bad, because, there's things you want to fix. But again, like I said, can you fix it? Is it really something in your control? And that's another thing that I will admit, I am a control freak. I am a planner. I have to be prepared. And watching the narcissist part of it, watching survival information, all of that stuff made me realize I needed to be prepared, because I never knew how Dad would act. Is he going to be drunk or not drunk? I need to be prepared for that. If I do something, will it make him angry or not? Will I get spankings or not? Will I get yelled at or not? Now, one of the biggest problems that I found out that I have is I blamed myself, that I obviously wasn't doing it. I was my fault because I wasn't doing things right. So I have a very good friend Lori Hewitt, and she helped me to do shadow work. Shadow work is, starting to deal with the things you consider your bad stuff. But she's such a loving soul. She's like an angel. She was able to take me back and show me there are actually 3 different lifetimes where I was blaming myself for something that occurred that I really had no control over. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I still haven't learned the lesson. No, that's the caring side of me. But the caring turned into, it became my responsibility. So when I told her those things, and then I told her certain incidents that would happen in my life, and my dad would say, why did you do that? And I would say, I don't know. Well, I needed to know why, even though I don't know why. I don't even know what I was thinking. I just kind of did it. And then I guess it was wrong. And Lori looked at me. She said, you were a child. A child does not realize that. You're still developing, but yet you still carry that in your lifetime. And I sat back going, well, dang it. She's right. Thumbs up or thumbs down? How many of you say sorry too often? Me. How many of you say sorry when it's not even your fault? Me. This is the funny thing. I worked on a client 3 days ago, and I just told her about that because she's got a lot of trauma in her life. And I told her that because she was saying that she's sorry, and I said, that's actually one of the symptoms. We say sorry for everything. And going back as a child, I'd say sorry because I really didn't know what I did wrong in the first place. But I'm sorry because I don't want to get spankings. I don't want to get disciplined. So I'd say I'm sorry. And the funny part of that, after we talked about that, she's leaving. A friend of mine had forgot their food in my refrigerator at work. And so I told them sorry because I was in a session. And so they wanted to come back, but I had locked the door. So I told them I was sorry. My client looked at me. She goes, you said sorry for being in a session. They knew you were in a session. So why is it your fault? And why are you saying sorry? I'm like, see what? These things just comes into our lives. And it's no control of ourselves. We can say, okay, I'll try not to say sorry. Somebody I had a session on yesterday. She was with somebody for 2 hours or something like that, she said. And that person was keeping track of how many times she said sorry for being herself. And I think it was 20. And I said, exactly. So a lot of the trauma that we've experienced leads us to believe that we're just not good enough, or there's so many things that we have to change. Or do we really? That's why when I asked about the things you consider to be the bad stuff, is it from what somebody else said that you're bad? Or like I would say, it was on my performance review or parent-teacher conference. They said, Gayle talks too much. But in my talking, I've been helping people. So it's like she's very good. She talks a lot, but she helps others. Well, how the heck are you supposed to help others if you can't communicate? Maybe just not all the time. If somebody wasn't having a good day, I was there with them. And I was trying to help them. But teacher had their own thing. This is quiet time. Oh. So I'm a very strong-willed woman. And I said, I will never let a man tell me what to do. Well, part of that because that's what Dad did all the time. And I could never figure out, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. I'm walking on eggshells. And then when I started to feel too vulnerable, I was like, I'm out of here. I can't deal with this. I don't want to be put in that state. So then I'd leave. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I met a man who actually I could speak to and be very truthful about who I am. I could say what I didn't like, I could tell him if he pissed me off, or I could just tell him I was sorry when I truly was. I could be me, every part of me, the good and the bad. So we just celebrated our 32nd anniversary. Oh my God, I was really married to him that long. But on top of that, it was 7 years before that we were dating. So almost 40 years with the same guy. Oh my gosh. Now, did we stay the same person in the 40 years? No. Being married is work. Sometimes I'm like, I am so done. I'm out of here. But there was a different side of me that I didn't have the fight or flight. It's like, well, it probably was just a bad day. Not speaking up would also have me holding back on what I really felt like, especially when I was getting triggered way too much. I just asked you to put the toilet seat down. In our bathroom, you guys, you men can do whatever you want in the bathroom, but in our bathroom, just put it down. That's not asking too much. Well, one day he didn't put it down and I blew up. Gayle, you can just go poop and it's down. What was the big deal? Oh, there were other things that pissed me off, but I didn't tell him. So learning to not speak up was hard. So then I did the opposite. Oh, now I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. But because I still kind of kept things up until I was ready to explode, my discussions were not very nice. My voice gets loud and I start to yell. And my husband would say, I'm not yelling. I'm like, well, you may not be yelling, but what you're saying is not right. Well, majority has to do with him, but it goes back to the traumas that I had. So the traumas, and this is important for everybody to understand, your traumas do not define who you are. It is a part of who you have become in your growth process. It is part of your, you may say bad habits. I'm going to say it's just part of your, when you are feeling not so secure, you will go back to. Because when you're not feeling safe, not feeling secure, you kind of go back to these habits that maybe you don't really like. But you don't plan, like, I am going to act this way. I don't know about you guys, but when I get triggered, there's no plans. I didn't even know I was going to act that way. So you can go to majority of your life saying, I'm good. Things are good. I'm learning to handle things. Everything is going fine. I've really grown and I'm a better person. Good for you. This is exactly what you want to do. But the humanness in us, every so often, it'll sneak up on us and bite our butt. And then you're going to go like, okay, wait. Oh, no, wait. That was PTSD. That's not really how I meant to respond. Don't say you're sorry. You may say, I didn't mean to act that way. But know that it's still part of who you are. We cannot erase the past. We can learn from it and move forward. Having someone impose their will upon us without our permission is very difficult. For me, having someone to tell me what to do when there's not a teaching moment, when there's no reason for it, I don't do well. It triggers me. I love working with people and I love to cooperate. We work together. But if somebody says, I'm thinking from the perspective of my husband, put the toilet seat down. Why? I may have forgotten. One time and you blew up. I did the same thing with him. I have my little glass water jug thing that I refill and that crystal then and everything. So I have Bob there. He goes, can you push it to the back? I'm thinking, what's the big deal? Every time I use it, I have to pull it forward. So why don't I just leave it there? He goes, because it's right next to the refrigerator. I don't have space to put things when I take out of the refrigerator. Oh, okay. Instead of just telling me to push it back, which I was like, why? Well, you do it every day, all day long. No, because he needs the space to put his stuff when he takes things out of the refrigerator. Oh, okay, that makes sense. But I've also learned that I'm the type of person, it's not just a matter of you telling me how to do it. I need to know the why. Well, remember how my dad says, why did you do this? I won't get stuck with not knowing. So I've been an inquisitive child, and I still am. But then the same token, I don't accept things for face value. Pretty much I try to have proof, which is very funny doing what we do. And I've asked for proof, and then I'm like, I just saw a Bigfoot. How the heck do I explain that? You know? Or the spirit guy just came right in. I'm going, you talking to me? Oh my gosh. And it's like, well, you wanted the proof. Yes, but being inquisitive or being prepared helped me to succeed in corporate America. That was a positive aspect. I can thrive in chaos. But my life was pretty much chaos. Every day was a different thing, paycheck to paycheck, from as a young child to the adult, until I really started making money. Then I didn't know how to spend the money. How many of you have clutter? Yeah, thumbs up. How many are clean freaks? It's got to be clean. Everything's got to be clean. That is also a symptom from the trauma. Believe it or not. Think about it. When you are stressed, when it's so bad, is that when the clutter starts to build up more? Or is it that when you're going into the cleaning mode? It's a natural reaction. I wish I was more clean, but life is getting better and I'm clearing things out and I'm feeling better. But when things are sucky, yeah, things start to pile up. I could be the work person. My office is clean. Well, part of that was because every time back in the day when I did work in corporate America, now I'm a contractor, so I get to work from home. My office, I had to clean my desk before I left. Why? Because I knew the next day I walked in, I'd have a lot of things to have to deal with. So my office person, the office side of me, the director side of me, made sure my office was clean. Now, when I got home, not so much throw my jacket here. Oh, there's not enough room because I've got 3 other people in the house that took the space to hang the coat. Okay, I'll just put it on the chair. Little by little, things started to build up. The more chaos I had, the more stress I had less time when I got home to do things because I was kind of physically and emotionally and mentally exhausted. So then the cleaning part didn't quite happen. My older sister, on the other hand, she has to clean. She is very meticulous. She's at that point where she came into my house once and she organized all my canned goods alphabetically. I'm like, okay, you go forth and conquer. If that makes you happy, that's good. We respond differently. Her organization, and this is a funny thing, we would decorate our Christmas trees when we were younger, All 3 girls and mom were putting this nice, beautiful things, decorations on the Christmas tree. And then we go to bed. Not my older sister. She couldn't sleep because it wasn't done right. Because there were 2 things that were similar that should not be next to each other. So she'd redo the whole damn tree. That was her comfort. She needed that. And she's October 26th and I'm November 8th. We're both Scorpios, but we have a different response to things. But we did go through the trauma. middle child here. Dad's favorite was my oldest sister. She wanted to go with him. He told her she couldn't. She had to stay with mom. So she was mad at my mom for a very long time. Younger sister was a baby. She was, mom's favorite because she was a baby. At that point, it didn't really matter to me because I was already an independent person. Apparently, my mom said I used to get up. Of course, this is when it was safe to do this. Get up, go to the neighbor's house and ask them to cook me breakfast. And they'd cook me something that I don't even eat, but I think I just saw it on TV or something. And I thought that's what breakfast was supposed to be because we didn't have that at home. We had powdered milk and we were lucky if we had, cereal or something. And so somebody else was cooking breakfast. I'm like, oh, you want that? You want eggs? Yeah, I don't eat eggs. I mean, not just like that, but they would cook for me. My mom didn't tell me this till I was in my 30s. I'm going, why'd you let me do that? And I felt guilty. I felt guilty for something I did when I don't even know how old I was, very, very young. Guilt is another thing, guys. Guilt is something that affects us because of our trauma. I deal with a lot of people who may have been sexually abused or have been sexually abused. Some of them, it's more of a memory that they're not quite sure if it happened. And I would tell them, I believe you. So I will share that trauma can also affect your physical body. Okay? It's that trapped stuff that's finally somehow, some way, your body is trying to tell you that there's something you need to pay attention to. So I had a client that I met, and this is pretty early on in my practice. No, I'm going to say my healing services, because I wasn't practicing. Anyway, I worked on her and I got to her stomach area, or more closer to your base chakra, if you want to say. And I felt almost nothing, like there was almost like a block. And she was older, so I was like, are you having female issues? Are you going through the change? I didn't know. She's like, no. And I'm like, okay, so I moved on. She came back like 3 weeks later, and I still felt it. I'm going, okay, obviously there's something that I need to ask a little more. So then I asked her, and she trusted me enough to tell me that she was sexually abused by her father and her father's brother, her uncle. And that is where that area was. That was a protection around that area. But I found very fascinating how she also had to have hip replacements, both hips. She did not tell anyone about this. She said her mom knew, but her mom never acknowledged that it took place. Now, she was a police officer as well. Unfortunately, she passed. And I also found out she was a hoarder. That's all the trauma that she kept inside. She never shared it. So I was very honored that she allowed me to help her to release that. But it affected to the point where it was in her hips. It affected her ability to move forward. Everything was being affected. She never married. And the sad part about it is a lot of her first cousins from the father's side, they never married either. But it turned out that her uncle did it to his kids and to the other cousins too. So that generation decided, we're not having kids because we don't want to put children through this. But her body was saying, you can't keep keeping this a secret. You've got to do something to let it go. And secret not meaning she has to tell everybody. But again, she can't let that define who she was anymore. Yet it did define her. She became a police officer. Well, who would have been great to help her when she was going through this? A police officer. So her chosen path was a result of the trauma. She had her first surgery. She delayed because she was afraid, and I get it. But after that first hip surgery, she got the second surgery, and things were good. Good also because she realized she didn't have to forgive them. Because when she did go to some counseling, and this was when she was young, the counselor said, you need to forgive them to move forward. And she told me that, and I said, excuse my language, hell no. There was just no way that you could have done something about it. You need to forgive yourself first. Forgive yourself. Most of us who've gone through trauma, it's human nature to think, I must have done something to deserve this. I wasn't good enough, and that's why I was treated this way. We also tend to give excuses for other people's behaviors. I tend to give people, I'd say around 8 chances. Then I realize, okay, then you're not, I don't want to be around you anymore. Some people say, oh no, 1 chance and that's done. But what if they had a bad day? You know, they were going through a lot, and so that's why they acted this way. I keep making excuses for the other person. You finally realize, why are you doing that? Maybe because I was never able to say, to have a bad day. And so I give that to someone else to say, well, you have that, maybe you did have a bad day. But when you're being a totally a-hole all the time and they just don't, change, finally I have to say, oh no, okay, I'm done. Now, there is also, as a narcissist, a person is always in the poor me situation. They can't do anything for themselves. Everything in their life is going bad. Everything, no matter what. They're in a deep depression, all this stuff. That it's everybody else's fault, but not theirs. That is different from being a person who went through trauma and you're trying to go through that. Okay? Some people develop the poor me syndrome, but it's more internal. Some people become an introvert because they don't want people to know that side of them. It's not something that you purposely do. It really starts on the subconscious level. And so we develop from childhood going forward, we develop to be able to cope with what is being imposed upon us. And then that behavior becomes who you are. Good or bad, right or wrong. So most people that I've met, including myself, we try to blame the trauma for the bad things that happened to us. We blame the traumas for poor decisions that we made. But in the end, we have the right to choose. We have the right to make decisions on our own. But generally, decisions are made from our past experience, from maybe what you know about the situation, and you make a choice. Sometimes it's off the cuff. Sometimes you have time to think about it. Trauma does come into play with that. Okay. I'm going to address Shirley's comment. So Shirley posted, in addition to therapy, what can you do to heal, especially when you have to interact with the people? Okay. That is the most difficult, yet the most common situation. And a lot of my clients are still going through it. Sometimes, and I'll use a friend of mine, it's still the parent. And he is the oldest of 3. He was very close to his father. He was an athlete. I mean, he was Mr. Testosterone. His dad was a wrestling coach. He was like the all-star, whatever, on for wrestling when he was in high school. When his dad passed, his mom started treating him very mean in front of the whole family, including his own kids. But she's his mom, so he has to go be there. He has to interact with her. He has to go to the family events, all of these things. But as we were going through the healing process, he realized that a lot of the pain and the trauma in the current day comes from mom, who always makes him feel like he wasn't good enough. So he did the opposite. I'm going to make myself the best person ever. Nobody's going to push me now. Nobody's going to, Mr. Testosterone. Well, the man I know today, he's very balanced. And he has a big, beautiful, loving heart. He's a big old teddy bear, even though when I first met him, he was a big old Kodiak grizzly bear. But so I told him, or asked him, do you have to interact with your mom if she's the source of your pain? How does she act with your other siblings? He goes, well, she doesn't treat them that way. I said, okay. So maybe it's a time of stepping away a bit, giving each other some space. To go, as a friend of mine said, to go no contact. He said, I can't do that because I want to make sure my kids can see, their grandmother, especially since his dad had died. And his wife's mother had passed. So they only got one, father this side, mother this side. I said, okay, why don't you ask them? Now keep in mind, the youngest was 22 out of his 3 kids. And so he asked them. So as a family, they made a choice. I don't think, and the kids said, we don't want her to be around because we don't like the way she treats you. So then as a family, they decided, okay, well then we're going to go no contact. And that was a big decision. Does that mean forever? Maybe, maybe not. But now his son, the middle child, got married or was going to get married at the time, and he didn't invite his grandmother. She called her son, my friend, why didn't I get an invitation to your son's wedding? And he said, Mom, I'm not the one inviting. It's his son's decision, and it's his wedding. So he decides who he wants to invite. And Mom said, well, you need to tell him he needs to invite me. And my friend said, no, Mom, I don't. And that was an interesting conversation. So he was able to stand up to Mom. And she realized that certain things would happen. So then she became a Facebook stalker. Mom would watch what they post and she'd make snide comments. So he unfriended her. Okay. Another situation. This woman, her mom could be so mean. Mom has a lot of pain. Mom has all these health issues, but she would constantly put my friend down, who's a nurse. And she finally decided, she's the one who told me about no contact. She said, I'm going to go no contact. And so it had been almost a year. And her mom wanted to connect. And my friend did want to, but she said, I'm not ready yet. She needed to find herself again and find that inner strength. So you know what? When my friend was finally ready, her mom admitted to the things that she realized that she was causing pain to her own daughter. And that maybe she shouldn't have said things the way she did. Maybe she should try to change who she is because it's really not a good thing for her to act that way, especially to someone she truly loves. And they are close once again. But at least my friend can now say, Mom, here you go again. And Mom can catch herself. Because to be honest, Mom didn't know what she was doing was being taken in the wrong way. Does that help you, Shirley? It's basically bringing yourself into the state of what I say matters. What I would like matters. What brings me joy matters. And so we love our parents, good or bad, we love them. Yes, healthy boundaries is important. Yes. But remember, our parents, or the person, and we'll call in the terms of my police officer friends, the perpetrators, they're human too. And in the case like my friend who had to tell her mom, they may not know that they're doing something wrong, or better yet, they were encouraged to act that way. And so they don't think they're doing wrong. Or they may be a true narcissist and think it's everybody else's fault. It's never theirs. So it's not a matter of us trying to heal them, because you can't heal somebody if they don't want to be healed, or if they don't realize that that's the problem that they have. So that no contact that my friends used actually helped them. And to think about it, I've been doing no contact for decades, because Dad is not a very much talker on the phone. So like, birthdays or Christmas or something, hi Dad, how's it going? Okay. And then, that's pretty much the limit of our discussions. So I wasn't put into the situation where I'd be triggered. But no contact can do some healing as well. So I actually did get COVID in the very beginning. And my mom, poor mom, because in Hawaii it was like a big thing. And, people were dying left and right. And because it's a smaller population and all this stuff, she thought I was going to die. So my mom, the quiet person that she was, called up my dad, her ex-husband, and says, you better call your daughter. She's got COVID. She might die. I asked Mom, how did you get him to call me? So he did call, but he says, oh, I called you when I thought you'd be feeling better. I'm like, okay, Dad. But he asked me, how are you doing? He actually started asking me how my business was going. The positive things, the things that you'd want to have a discussion. I didn't have to do that, because I used to hate that. Call Dad and you got to kind of just try to ask questions and maybe he'll respond. No, it was totally different. Dad's getting older too, my mom too, but Dad's getting older too. So there's different views, they start to see things differently. But part of our job in healing from traumas is to release the blame, is to release the scars of what occurred, learn from them, definitely. Move forward and understand the trauma's effect on you and how it affects your normal behavior, your behavior when you're being triggered, in your fear mode, the fight or flight mode. Be aware of that, because that can help you. Now, the last piece that I want to share about trauma and about not feeling good enough goes back into our spiritual side. Okay? So many of us says, I need to do self-healing. I need to improve myself. I need to make myself better. I need to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And a lot of us will go, well, I don't really know how that is, but I'm going to take classes and I'm going to learn how to do that, right? Some people will do the medicinal stuff like ayahuasca, peyote, whatever, marijuana, whatever it is, to help them get to the state so they can pick it up and try to understand that. Okay, that's everyone has their own way to do that.
Okay, I accidentally muted you. Sorry, I was trying to let someone know. Can we let her back on, please?
Okay.
Sorry, everybody.
So, but in the end, it comes back to me starting to look at my traits, the good and the bads, and seeing the bads are not as bad. And I'm actually pretty good. Focusing on the positive sides of you, because you're not a victim anymore, unless you're still going through it now. But even if you're going through it now, you can actually move past that. You're not a survivor either. Because surviving, we're just barely making, we're kind of still in that whole process of still being the victim. You are the victor. You made it through. And be proud of who you are. So when I first heard about that, there was a vision that I was shown, and this had to deal with the Olympians, like real people, not the Greek or Roman mythology things. The Olympians, the people who win the silver, the bronze, and the gold. They don't stand up there and saying, oh, I still have so much work to do. They do, but what they do is say, like the gold medalists may say, I'm going to win gold the next time. The silver medalists say, well, you know what? I saw that there are things that I need to tweak a bit, but then that'll make me be able to get gold. I'm the bronze person, same thing. All right, well, I saw I could have done a little better here and there, but overall, I'm doing great because I got a medal. You don't start back from zero again. We take who we are as our foundation. And we try to look at the areas that we think, if this is within my power to make the change, and if this change will bring me joy, then I can try to focus on that. But the last piece that I learned, and it was actually from a person that I was my last body, mind, and spirit one that I worked in, this person named Vince Kramer. Unfortunately, he just passed as well. But he channeled what was called the round table. And all the people who had helped me at the fair, they went and said, oh, Gayle, you got to go see him, because they went and had a reading with him. Well, I was like, no, I'm too busy because I've got to work the fair. Finally, it was on Sunday, a couple hours before we're going to wrap up. My friends were there to help me, and they're going to help me pack up. My friend Colleen, she goes, you need to go get your butt down on that seat. Go sign up, because you have to listen to what he has to say. I'm like, yes, ma'am. Because she was saying it from love, because it was something that really changed her. So I signed up, and I'm still trying to clean up. And then I was ready to go see him. Well, actually, I forgot. Let me take a step back, because I forgot one key point. I had to go potty. And whenever I go to the bathroom, that's when my guides seem to hit me. Even if I just have to pee, they said, like, okay, nobody's going to be bothering her. She's going to be focused. And I was told, you need to go and let someone share the messages that we're sharing with you, so you can really hear what we're trying to say. And I was like, oh, funny they should say that, because Vince was right there. And so when I came out of the bathroom, Vince's wife, who was, who kept the list of people, she says, Vince and I were talking, and we think you need to, sit with Vince and have a chat. I said, guides come and tell you too. So I did. I signed up. But it seemed like I wouldn't be able to talk to him, because the person before me, she came 15 minutes late, and it was only 20-minute sessions. So I'm like, oh no, I can't do this. I got to get things done. My husband and my sons are going to come to load things up. I got to get this done. And that's when my friend says, no, where are the things that where's the packing stuff? You need to go sit down. It's like, okay, I showed her. So I did. And what was interesting is part of this, I guess the channeled messages that I got. The guide says, we need to ask you to do a favor for us. We need your help. So I'm like, this is what I've been waiting for. They're going to tell me what my purpose is and what I need to be doing. So I'm there ready to write things down. The first one, he said, yeah, I do that. The second one, yeah, I do that too. The third one going, yeah, I just started doing that. That's what I want to go to do. And then by the fourth one, he says, now do you understand? And I stopped and I said, so my purpose is exactly what I'm doing now and what I have been doing? They said, exactly. Now, how the heck did that happen? I have no clue. But that was amazing because then that was like, oh, so you mean you're not going to tell me that I have to go and take these 10 classes to get to this point because this is what I'm supposed to be doing? No. Your purpose in life is do things that brings you joy. So we can survive. No, we can surpass the traumas by bringing in the joy to fill in that big void that the trauma had created. The black hole, the parts that we don't want to remember. That's the one we put in a box and we shove in a corner. Some of us deal with it, some of us don't. My dealing with it was moving away. Oh, I solved the problem. Yeah, that didn't fix the problem. But also knowing these things about you. So when you react to things a certain way, or you're like, you get triggered, no, it's okay. Because you are human and we have emotions. For those of you who are really connected to the star beings part of it, the emotional part of us as humans is what they really want to learn more about.
So Shirley
like,
has another question.
Cool.
Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Shirley has another question. Any guilt when you went no contact?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because she says,
yeah.
Oh, because she says, culturally, for me, you don't give up on your family no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's me too. I'm Japanese ancestry. My great grandparents came from Japan and they moved to Hawaii. Everybody's life was a struggle. Respecting elders. How about the not talking back? Everything that made me who I am. That's my foundation. And I say guilt is my middle name. Even if I didn't do anything to cause a problem, but something happened, I felt guilty. So guilt is something that we need to understand and actually acknowledge that we feel guilty because we have emotions. We feel guilty because we have a heart. So you may feel guilty. It's like saying, be strong. You had that one piece of, candy, but there's a whole bowl there. But I had that one piece of candy and I'm good. And so I'm going to walk away from that candy. Okay, 2 hours later, you go and grab 2 more. But it was 2 hours. Your body did work through it. So don't feel guilty about having 2 more. But that's the thing. And I'm sure, Shirley, you understand this. Guilt is our middle name. So we do feel bad. But remember, there's also part of their manipulation on you through all these years that they know if you feel guilty, you're going to do exactly what they want you to do.
Penny has a question.
Yes.
The question is, how can I find a positive?
Okay. First of all, find the positive in you first. You look at a situation, like, I want something on your bad list. Your job is to come up with a situation where that actually may be positive. Maybe not verbatim how you wrote it. Like I talked about, I talk too much. Or how about, I cannot stand when things are not going the way I planned it to. Okay, that's one of the bad things because I get worried. I'm planning A through Z, maybe even to double Z. That's not good because I can't be in the flow. So I've had to learn to understand. And actually, I had to have proof that when I let things go and it can actually be in the flow, things turn out pretty good. Look back at your history. Some people who said they're afraid of failing, especially the ones that's a really big thing. And I'll say, how often have you failed? Seriously, how often have you failed? Or are you saying that you failed because actually the benchmark was here and you were up here, so you didn't make it up there, but you were halfway through and you failed? That is not a failure. Hopefully that helps. We are the hardest on ourselves. We carry the guilt. We carry the trauma. We carry the fear. But that is normal because that is part of who we are. But we don't let the victim be the one who guides us moving forward. We can go into the survivor mode to help us as you're going through that. But no, the survivor mode is only maybe for certain situations, or it's the interim stage before you are the victim. You can take anything negative and turn it into a positive. I used to think that was a bunch of BS, but actually it's not. Getting into a bad car accident. Okay. But why did you have the car accident? Not because, oh, somebody hit me and, okay, well, that's a physical stuff. That's true. I had that. I was it was icy, and this lady came out of a daycare area. She came out onto the road. It was just a 2-lane, one road. It was more residential, and she hit ice. Now, I was on the bottom going up, and I saw her lose control. So I stopped. But I still got hit. And I ended up facing from this way, that way. I had no control over that whatsoever. I was in a lot of pain. I had nerve damage, all of these things that were going on. When I look back at that and try to see the positive from it, I didn't see much positive. I got all messed up. My car got totaled. Everything was like sucky. But what I realized was it was the same time when I was working 16-hour plus days every day. I needed to slow down. But me being me, I can go to work because my leg still works. I can go to work. I can deal with the pain. I kept going. Well, that's why I had 2 ankle surgeries. I had all of the other things that happened in my life. Because I really didn't pay attention to what was the reason behind it. The positive side is I didn't die. The positive side is, other than my injuries, no one else got hurt because what they ended up doing was blocking off that side road so nobody else can get hurt. But I didn't see the positive for quite some time. And to be honest, the actual lesson to learn from that, it wasn't that I was mad at the person who hit me, she couldn't control. I was really upset with the insurance companies, how they do things, and getting attorneys involved. That was really bad. So that's what actually I was holding on to. Does that help? You can always look at you. I call it like you're putting on your rose-colored glasses or being Pollyannish about it, but you can change things. You can see the positive in it. Whether you accept it as a positive may take time. So now we got half an hour left. Does anybody have questions that they really want to, talk about? And then you can either post it in the chat. Do you want to do that, Jacqueline? Do you want them posted in the chat or raise their hand? Okay, go ahead and raise your hands.
Yes, they can raise their hand.
Yeah, raise your hand if you've got a question. And again, this is like Vegas. Whatever we say here stays here. And know that we are all heart-centered. That's why we chose to come here in the first place. You also have my contact information. So you can also reach out as well.
This has been incredible. You are amazing. And
Thank
like I put
you.
in notes, your healing sessions are off the chain. And the thing about them is I've gone to you twice for different things and I didn't have to keep coming back to you. So thank you.
Yes, that's my goal. I don't say, okay, every 2 weeks you need to come see me. I'm the type, you let me know when you're ready. Any tips on how to stop self-doubt and or feeling such pain when others seem to not value us? Okay. I wish I had the solution. I'm still working through that. One thing to do when they start, especially when someone starts pointing out the bad things or not valuing you, maybe you're not supposed to be around them in the first place. It's like that, choosing to not be, not to have any part of them, going non-contact. Part of what I've learned is that there are times in our lives that we have to realize, is it worth having this person in my life when all the time that I'm around them, I feel terrible? Then maybe they're not supposed to be a part of your life. If we focus on trying to find the joy in life, try to do things that brings us joy, they don't fit the criteria. So you can send them off with love, and then it's done. They may try to, come back, especially if they are ones who controls you. Minimize your contact, minimize their ability to overwhelm you, minimize their ability for them to make you feel you're not pretty. How do you work on just the recurrence subconscious trauma? Okay. Bad habits. How do you become more aware? Okay. So therapy is good, but it's not always good for everybody. I have a son who, poor thing, he has depression, anxiety, and suicidal tendencies. So he went to the counselors because they told him he had to go, but he never talked to the counselors. So what does that do? It doesn't. So the subconscious traumas is, I think, what happens if it keeps coming up. It's saying, hey, either it's time to let this go, it's time to forgive yourself, it's time to move forward. It comes back because it's still it's still at the forefront of your mind. It doesn't mean that we're going to forget. I have to make this clear. You don't forget. We try to lessen the pain from the trauma by filling our life with the positive things. Bringing the joy will help you to not be stuck in that negativity. But when you're not feeling valued, that really sucks. It just keeps you, it's like their way to control you, to actually keep you down, not allowing you to blossom and be who you are. So I would rethink about that relationship. But maybe it's not the positive one for you. I'm not saying call them now and says we're done. I'm saying follow your heart and realize that you matter. What you say matters. Your wants, your needs, your values are just as important as someone else's. So take that and put that in the forefront. Okay. Overcoming self-doubt and emotional pain from perceived lack of value can be challenging. Yes, practice self-compassion. That's treat yourself with the same kindness, that's it, right, that you would anyone else. Like to do unto others as you would have others do unto you, right? The golden rule. Well, but you can't control other people. I have to make that self-clear because I got to remember that. I can't control how they act. I can't control how I act. So when things get pretty bad, when it's like, okay, I've said, I may not say I'm done. If that it was my husband, I'll say I'm done. But with most people, I'll say, okay, well, I understand where you're coming from. but saying like, I need to step away, or, I just try to nicely, or maybe say, I gotta go get something to drink, water or something, not like drink alcohol. I gotta get something to drink. Find a way to remove yourself from that, where it's just starting to build up. Now, how do you work with just okay, we got that one. So I work with people who also go to therapists, and it's a great supplement. Like I said, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm a spiritual counselor, but I'm also what's called a wounded healer. Wounded healers are those of us who went through it, who lived through it, or maybe even currently living through it. And we can help others through even our personal experiences, help to move forward. So the key things that I want all of you to remember is that there may not be one person out there who can tell you what you need to do. Because really, the change doesn't happen until you decide what it is that you want to change to take you from the victim to the victor. And it's not a simple process. I wish it was. There may be pros and cons to your approaches. It may be learning from it, having learning moments going, I'm not going to do that again. Oh, that didn't work. But remember to give it time. Change takes time. Many people don't like change. But when we are the ones who have been going through trauma, we need the change. We cannot remain as the victims, because then it makes us very unhappy. And if our whole goal in life is to find the joy and happiness to make us enjoy our lifetime experiences here, why waste it? Anybody else? So hopefully this met what you were expecting. Oh, Jacqueline has a question. Yes.
I do. So I had years of missing childhood that I couldn't remember, of memories. I was in therapy for my anger for a while, but nothing came out of that, even though I had told her that I didn't have memories of certain things. But it took years into adulthood until I started seeing little flickers, but I still wasn't sure if I was making it up or if it had really happened. But maybe,
Right.
Can you talk on that up just a little bit?
Yes. So there's a spiritual side that they think this is what's causing, but our mind is very amazing. If it causes us so much pain, a lot of times it doesn't allow us to remember. There's a lot of things in my childhood I don't remember. It's probably for a good reason. I have to ask you a question. Did your therapist ever say you had a right to be angry?
Not often. No.
Right. So that's the first thing. I think that's why it didn't quite work well. You have every right to be angry. But where are we going to go from here? Because anger never helps us. The gap in the memory, many people also call that there may have been a walk-in that occurred. The trauma was so bad that your soul left and another one came in. I haven't worked a lot with that, but I do know several people who've had that experience. And then I say, I think I'm more the big, what I first mentioned, that trauma kind of just, I kind of put it in a corner because it was just too much. I couldn't deal with it every single day. So then I had to learn how am I going to survive? And I didn't want to remember it. And I think, Jacqueline, that's kind of where you came from too, that you didn't want to remember it. So part of your healing doesn't mean you have to go back and relive everything. It doesn't mean that you have to remember every single trauma that occurred, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't want that. What I want to know is, how can I move forward? Maybe we can say in spite of that, because actually I'm a good person and I don't deserve to let that person who was the perpetrator, or the people that were the perpetrators, continue to control me. That's why I don't like to be controlled. I think that's a very good reason why. And that's why I'm so opinionated in certain degrees. But I think it's our mind being able to deal with or not deal with that. But you're actually, it will come when when it's appropriate. Let's put it that way. Does that help you, Jacqueline?
That helps a lot. Thank you.
Good.
Can you
There's another question.
briefly touch on walk-ins? Because you mentioned it and some
Okay.
people may not know what it is.
So I learned about walk-ins from a friend who actually went through a traumatic event, and she told me she's a walk-in. I'm like, oh, what do you mean? And I've read up about it, but there's some kind of trauma, an event that occurred that allows you to finally say, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I choose to leave. And for some reason or some way, there is another soul that may take your place as you leave. This is what I was told. Some have the memories of, the prior, your lifetime in the past, and some don't. There's different, I guess, different levels. But ultimately, walk in or not, you're still here. So whether you are the one before the walk in or the one after the walk in, you're still you. And so that's the way I see it. It's like saying, oh, now you're version 2.0. So does that help? What walk-ins?
Thank you. That's a really good explanation of it.
Thanks. Like I said, I don't work a lot of people with that, but I do have a few people that I've met. And so I'm sharing what they had gone through. Disassociation.
Mhm.
Oh, let me see. Okay, so let me see. I'm going to try to catch up on the questions.
Okay, so Shirley asks, what's the difference between breath work and shadow work?
Okay. So there is a big difference, and yet not. It's labels, everybody. These are labels, and it's just different techniques to do. Shadow work is about identifying the things that maybe you don't like about yourself, or that that needs to be changed in somebody's mind, maybe yours, and you want to go back and try to fix that. So acknowledging what they are helps it to bring to the light. I always say I'm a light being. I don't like to deal with the dark. If something's dark, I'm going to send my light. I was first talked about when I was told shadow work from the shamanic aspect. One person says, I need to go to hell for you to bring back your soul. And I'm sitting there going, I don't think I'm in hell. I think I'm pretty good. I don't think that's the case. But like my friend Lori, she brought me through the shadow work by letting me identify, see those past lives, see those incidents that tend to repeat, which is why I'm doing this today. And then realizing in all those ones that I saw, I really didn't have the control to change it, but I owned it as my own. Whereas breath work works for everything. As you are, like I like to tell my clients, that imagine grabbing all that trauma. You guys can actually do this now. Imagine you don't even have to figure out, well, what was it? Just imagine that the trauma may look like something, maybe like green balls or something. And you're going to gather all those balls up, take it out of your body. And as you breathe in, you're gathering it up. And then as you exhale, you're blowing it out. That is one way to not let the trauma be inside you, to release it. Because when you keep trauma or trapped emotions inside of you, they eventually turn into physical dis-ease because we weren't paying attention to it in the first place. And a lot of times it's like you didn't even know it. That's why there's a problem when it's in your subconscious. You're not aware of it. Hopefully, Shirley, that answered your question. Okay, now I detach a lot was in my own world that's developed into active imagination and fantasies for me, which helps with my intuition. Okay, number one is not imagination. You, Christine, you can go in different realms. You do that on a regular basis, but you started doing that as a means of escape, escaping to where you love to do. Now that is part of your gift to be able to do that. A lot of our gifts that we have now, empathy is very, very good. Empathy makes us into intuitive people. trying to figure out, I gotta be prepared. I need to know what he's gonna do. Then we start picking up more cognizant things. What is it we're going to go? All these little things starts to develop our gifts. So I don't say I'm going to guarantee, but I pretty much can tell you those people who are naturally gifted, it is a result of trauma because we're just trying to be prepared.
That makes sense.
So have your fantasy world, but remember, you still do live here. So try to find a way where both can come together. Okay, now, and about lost memories, although I'm not fully healed, but as I am healing, more memories are coming up. Okay. Obviously some I'd rather not have, right? But it does help me know that my adult choices are extremely correct. Yes. See what I didn't know or seen then. Okay, see then. Perfect, Anne. That's part of us learning from experiences. The worst case is when we don't learn from something that happened. That's why it happens again and again. We go through it, maybe it's not as easy to get rid of it or to move past it, but we learn from it. And that's the key. So great. Disassociation, there's positive and negative to disassociation. No contact is pretty much disassociation, but it is something that it's kind of like you're doing something that you feel. So disassociation can be positive when there's other people who are trying to manipulate you, control you. Disassociation will help you to be able to live who you want in the way you want to. Thanks, Shirley. Okay, let me see. So, am I fully healed? Am I a perfect person? Absolutely not. Am I a little more aware of how the traumas that I put in a box and shoved in the corner all these decades, am I a little more aware of those? Yes. Am I perfect? No. But I'm not meant to be perfect. Perfection, imperfection. Our imperfection is very important because imperfection also means that we are unique. We're not, imperfection only replies, let me try it again. Imperfection is something that's somebody's standard we're not meeting. Well, I don't like your standards. Actually, I am perfect, right? I mean, that's the whole piece. The Navajo, when they make their woven blankets, they need to they create imperfection. And there's a purpose in that. And so there is a place for the imperfection, the uniqueness about us. How do you know someone manipulates me? Okay, number one, they make you do things on a regular basis, what you don't really want to be doing. They make you start to second guess what you think is right. They sometimes they can physically control you to do things. They stop you from being around other people that actually may be the positive people that you should be around. There's different forms of manipulation. Some of it, which is more what my dad would do, it's the word choices and when they would say it. So that was a manipulation. Always, I mean, he may not have realized. Well, there you go, I'm making excuses for him. But that was manipulation. Oh, the next time you're going to get all A's. Why did you do what you do? You need to know what you're doing. All these words would affect me. So that's his manipulation. Manipulation also leads to control, which that's why I said I have a problem with people trying to control me. Stanley, you have your hand up? You can unmute yourself. Let me see.
Yeah, I was trying to unmute and then I saw these windows coming up.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, is not allowed. Okay, I see. So I've kind of gone through my own like healing process over many years, and a lot of it has been sort of a spiritual process, but also some of it is there's such a integration between spiritual and cognitive behavioral therapy. At some point, it's kind of a lot of it is very similar or the same. And I'm kind of in a place where, well, there's sort of the question, well, do I need healing, or how do I know when something comes up that, oh, that's something I need to look at? There's something there where you've got like a sensitivity, or there's a little bit of reactivity. That's what's coming to mind, but I'm just curious from your perspective, someone who's, done healing and they've definitely noticed change in some ways. What might they be aware of or notice that indicates there's maybe healing to do here, or maybe issues to resolve there?
So what I want to say, Stanley, is that everyone says there's always room for improvement, right? And what are we trying to achieve? Perfection. But what if you're already perfect, Stanley, which you are, and little things may affect you, but not where it's something that it constantly recurs. One thing triggers you and you feel like, oh, I have to work on that. Or maybe it was like, yep, yeah, and I know why that triggers, but you know what? I'm not going to let that, so I'm going to stop that. There's nothing else to heal. All the work that you have done gave you the foundation to continue to move forward. And now if something is really, it starts to be something that, like you can't sleep at night because of, or it changes your pattern and you're feeling not comfortable, then you may look into something, say, well, maybe I do need to work on that. But overall, just because it happened once, it doesn't mean that you have to go and fix it. Does that make sense? I like to use the analogy, my friend, because they say something happens to me physically, then there's a reason why. So she bangs her knee on a table and she said, I wonder what that means. And I said, watch where you're going. It may not always be spiritual. Watch where you're going.
Wow,
So
that really puts it in perspective. Thank you.
So know that you are healed and you continue to move forward because you so choose to.
Yeah.
But don't see that you failed or there's areas that you need to work on. Just saying, oh, yep. I think the failure would be to say, yep, I've got all this information. And then that's it. You don't do anything with it. So congratulations, Darla. You're doing good.
Yeah. One other, if I could slip in one other quick little question. Are you familiar at all with like the writings of Bessel van der Kolk? He wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score. Are you at all familiar with that?
I've heard of it.
Okay.
I use different books.
Okay.
But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There's a lot of mindfulness there. He even emphasizes things like yoga, what they call somatic psychotherapy, somatic work.
Right.
You've talked about energy work here, just a little while ago. Okay, so I just was wondering how would you describe your orientation in terms of, you've mentioned that you're a wounded healer and also a spiritual counselor. How would you, is there anything else that you would describe as sort of like your niche or your particular focus or emphasis?
So when I work I'm not here to heal somebody. I'm here to assist somebody in their healing process. And I take each individual and I see what they're going through. And I help them to, first of all, feel better about themselves and the choices that they've made, and then how can we move forward? And so I let them kind of help to guide what they would like to do. In terms from the my gifts, like as an urban shaman, I will move the energy blockages. But I may say, oh, you know what? I'm feeling this and I think this is why. Then it starts to have a discussion. Speaking about it also helps to release. So I don't really have like a one word to describe what I'm doing. I'm here to help others. And also I can share what I went through, because a lot of times when I share, it hits home for that person. And then they realize I am not somebody, a perfect person, and you're going to see me on TV where thousands of people would come. No, my favorite time of working with people is one-on-one. Even if it's, not in person, we can do it online too.
Yeah.
But I'm really here to assist you on your path. And by the way, I'm not here to tell you what your path is. I'm like, well, why can't you tell me? Because that's not what we're here to do. Your path evolves as you evolve. But if you follow and you work towards finding the joy in your life, that will bring you the happiness. That will take the obstacles away. It may sound Pollyannish, but you know what? It's been working so far. And I've had to go through physical things to make me finally pay attention because I am stubborn. I mean, that's just me. Hopefully they help you, Stanley.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome. So I guess we're about time
At
there.
the end of our rope. Will you
Yep.
come back next year again?
Absolutely, Kendara. Absolutely. And you guys have my contact. You see my contact information. I am going to start trying to set up just like group discussions like this. So the goal today wasn't to acknowledge your trauma and to let it define you, as I said. Hopefully, you now start to see that I can actually move forward. And the trauma, it's not that bad. It kind of changed who I was, but actually, it made you the unique person that you are. And if it's going to cause you harm, definitely work on fixing that. If it doesn't cause you harm, and if you can see that it is a good thing in certain aspects or certain situations, let that come through. But remember, everybody, you are worthy, you are loved, and you are whole. With that, I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful day. Myself, Gayle, and Kendara will be in Denver. Even me from Canada, I'll be in Denver next weekend for the Awkwardly Zen weekend. We have our 11/11 weekend, and it's on the Saturday before November 11th.
It's on the 9th.
We'll be at the Althea Center. We will be at the Althea Center. If you want to see any of us, there'll be many other readers and other energy workers and etc. All of us doing different things. So
you can join our meetups. You can, connect with us on Facebook. Kendara and I both post our classes and our discussions. So something else may call you to join us.
And Gayle and I do the Ho'oponopono Hawaiian prayer for forgiveness.
I forgot that one.
Like the third Wednesday of every month, and that's amazing. That's all I meet up to.
Second Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And that's the forgiveness. It started a forgiveness of somebody else or asking them to forgive you. You can apply that to forgive yourself.
Powerful.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everybody. And
thank you,
have
everyone.
a great rest of your weekend.
And it's in Denver, not in Canada.
Everybody. And I just want to say that during this meetup, 14 people joined my group. So thank you.
Yay. Yay.
Thank you all. You're so appreciated. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks for coming.